Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I'm going to be checking out a new VTX. This is the FuriousFPV Stealth Long Range Edition. So they do the race edition, which switches between 25mW and 200mW. This one does that, but it also goes up to 700mW supposedly. Now if you watched Josh's video on the Stealth, he did some power testing and saw that it struggled to maintain that 200mW against the Unify. So I'm going to be testing the power of this one to see if it can perform as they are saying, because it's a little bit more expensive. This one is £32, that's without the Bluetooth module. If you're interested in this VTX, personally I go with the one with the Bluetooth module because it's just a couple of pounds more, I think £36. So yes, this is the non-Bluetooth version, so I'm not going to be able to use this with my phone. However, I am going to be able to connect it up to a Copter using the tramp protocol. So I'm going to be able to control it through my Copter, because you can control it through the single button on it. However, you have to unscramble this flowchart here, and I don't fancy doing that whatsoever. And it tells you all of the different colours and things like that, and how to get it to set up in pit mode by pressing it for a certain number of seconds. I don't fancy that whatsoever, and it's designed to run off your flight controller, so that's what I'm going to do today. So it comes in this little package here, this little box, and we have got these various connectors. Now this is important, they've given you an SMA connector very similar to the Unify connector. However, you'll see it's got an MMCX connector. With the connector attached, it weighs just 9 grams, and without the connector it is 5.2 grams. If you want to use a smaller connector, you can do, which some of you might not like. I personally am pleased that they are using this bigger connector, because recently I destroyed my Unify on the Core V2, the little UFL connector. I tried to disconnect it and it just ripped it apart. So I'm actually glad that they're using this more hefty connector, and you can see it's pretty tricky to get it to come out once it's in there, so that's a welcome thing for me. So we've got this wiring harness here, and we've got our various connectors. So we've got our video, and then we've got our ground and the 5V out to your camera, and that is going to a 3-pin 1.25 pitch JST. So if you've got an on-screen display, you'll have to cut into those, and I'm probably going to have to do that. Then we have got the tramp protocol wire, so that's going to go to the TX on one of your spare UART, and then we have got the positive and negative, and it takes from a 2 to 6S voltage. They're saying it's got a built-in regulator and LC filter, so you don't need to run it off a regulator. But with it taking a 2S voltage, it does mean if you have got a 5V regulator, such as the Kakute F4 has, then it's not going to power up, or if it does, it's not going to output the amount of power that it says it does. So yeah, that connects into there, like so. I'm going to have to solder that up. And then we've got 2 ports here. It's interesting. One of them is for the Bluetooth adapter, which I haven't got, and then the other one is for an LED strip. So yeah, you can control the LEDs if you want to. If you don't want to run it through Betaflight, you can do it off the VTX and then use the phone app to control all of that. But like I say, I'm not going to be able to do that with this one because this is the non-Bluetooth version. Then we've got a heat shrink, I guess, to go over the top, but it does already have a heat shrink on there. Interestingly, no RF shielding, so I'll have to see what it's like when it comes to noise. It does have a built-in microphone on here as well, so you don't have to worry about your audio to your camera. It's got its own one built in there. So I've decided to connect this up to the FuriousFPV GT220, and this might surprise some of you. However, it's a perfect candidate for testing out this VTX because, first of all, the camera in and out pins are running VBAT, so that's going to test how well the onboard filtering is on this, because it's just going to be direct battery voltage rather than filtered, so I thought it'd be good for that. Also, the GT220 had its VTX burn out on me, and GearBest are sending me another VTX, so I'll test that out when it comes. However, they told me that the reason that it burnt out was because the heat shield was pressing against the carbon, and well, that's not true because there's this sticky pad on there, and when I took it out there's actually a loose component on here, so I would imagine that's why it failed. But anyways, this is a perfect candidate, and I want to turn this into a good model, so I've also switched the camera out for a Fox here as well, because these CMOS cameras that they are putting with these are just no good. So let me show you how I've got it connected. So I'm using the 5-volt out on here to the camera, and that's going direct, and the same with the extra ground that's going in there too. So we have a common ground between the VTX and the camera, so I shouldn't have any issues with the on-screen display. Then we've got the video in, that is coming down to the video in pin here on this omnibus board there. And then underneath here I've got the VBAT out in the ground, that is coming out to the voltage in and ground on here. And we've also got the video out, that is connected on here as well. And then finally, this is for the control of the VTX, and that is going into the TX3. So I've used a 1mm pitch JST, just a spare one that I've got. It's on the second pin, so TX3 is UART3, and that seems to work. So another good thing about this is it's got this plate here, and it seems to fit the holes of this, so I need to find some screws, and that'll fit much better than this guy did with just some sticky pads on there. Okay, so this is my finished guy. Actually looks really smart now. I've done away with the stock propellers. These are the GEP RC5040. Nice freestyle propeller, and everything fits in here pretty nice. I was a little bit concerned how this would fit in here, but it just loops around and isn't causing a problem. It does fit in there. Of course, the problem with these bigger connectors is they do take up more space, but they're a lot more sturdy, and so far I'm really liking it. So I've got my antenna routed back here. And yes, for the triggered squad, this antenna position isn't ideal at all, because if you come across it like that, it will just snap off. Better to have it facing outwards, but you know, this is how this model has come, and it's how it's designed, so let's hope that I don't crash it. And I could probably stick some electrical tape on there, make sure that there's nothing contacting with the carbon, but I'll do that at a later date. And I'll see how it flies like this. Yeah, but it looks pretty nice. The camera coming out there nicely. I think this one is a 2.5mm lens, so it's my preferred lens to use while doing FPV. Okay, so I've got my immersion power meter turned on here. I've got a 30 dB attenuator. Let's plug the battery in, and it should be starting off in pit mode. I've set it to do that. So you can see it says 0 milliwatt, which is good. Let's look through the goggles. So I am getting a picture, but it's very grainy, so very low power indeed. So if I've got the throttle in the middle, pitch fully forward, and then yaw to the left, I can get into the on-screen display. And if I go into features and then select the tramp, you can see it says pit mode on, and then if I come down here, the power is at 25 milliwatt. So if I switch this to off and then look at the power meter, it's actually shot up to 55 milliwatt there. So it might be the case that using the on-screen display does not get you the correct reading, and it might be that you have to go into the Lua scripts. So the instructions do say that you should use the Lua scripts to change the power output. So yeah, we're getting 50 milliwatts there where it says 25, and I don't think we can go any lower than that. So if I just go up here to 200 milliwatt and then do set and then yes, let's see what happens now. It's gone up to 217 milliwatt, which is accurate, so it's not like it's one behind the other. I kind of thought maybe 25 milliwatt was 50 milliwatt and it's sort of skipped one, but 200 milliwatt does seem to be around about 200 milliwatt. So if we go into here and then go up, we got 400, and 600 is the highest that it will go. So I don't have the 700 option again, which is making me think that you're not meant to use this screen, but I like to use this screen. And if you want to use Lua scripts, you have to hook up your telemetry on your receiver, and this is an XM Plus, so I can't do that. So if I go and set this again and then yes, let's have a look what that's at. So that's gone up to actually more than 700 milliwatts. So it seems like it is outputting the power that it says, and even more so. In fact, that will go down as it heats up. I should put a fan on and not have this going on for too long, otherwise it might overheat. You see we've got the temperature there at 52. So yeah, I'll just disconnect that. So it does seem like if you're going through the on-screen display there that it is going to be powering up more than 25 milliwatts, and if you're at a race they might not let you fly. So along with the Copter, I'm going to be using my Fatsdhark Dominator HD3s with a Menace Invader patch antenna and a Aomway cloverleaf antenna. And I can't remember the name of this antenna, I got it a while ago. Very expensive though, so I'll probably just use a Aomway cloverleaf on there. And sticking with the FuriousFPV brand, we have got the True Diversity module. And for the transmitter, I'm going to be using my Taranis Plus just because I have this model already bound to it, but I am going to be switching to the X10 for newer models. So it's usually quite rare that I'm able to show you the audio track of a VTX because it's usually just so scrambled, but take a listen. Now, kind of strange because the motors were revving a lot higher than this, and it made me think perhaps they've done some kind of audio processing, maybe to get rid of a load of noise, because you tend to get a horrendous amount of noise when listening to the audio of a VTX or a camera, to the point where I just don't find it useful. But in this case, you actually can hear the motors revving, but it's not as high pitched as the motors were actually sounding. So yeah, maybe they've done something with that. But other than that, I was actually pretty impressed. So this is the 25 milliwatt setting, or 50 milliwatt, I guess you could say. And yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Now there is a little bit of noise filtering through from the ESCs, a little ripple there, but it's not bad at all. I imagine if I installed a capacitor on this Copter, that would get rid of some of that. So yeah, it's got some pretty hefty filtering because this is just plugged in directly to the battery, and I thought it was alright. So yeah, seeing as it's kind of aimed at freestyle and long range opposed to racing, it's not too much of a problem that it's outputting more than 25 milliwatt. And I am just guessing here, I'm going to have to go and get the Bluetooth module because I don't fancy hooking up telemetry. You know, I'd have to switch out the receiver. I don't want to do that. But yeah, I'm interested to see if using that Bluetooth module will mean that it gets the proper 25 milliwatts. And if so, that's pretty good. Because if I remember rightly with the Race Edition, it didn't sit very nicely at 200 milliwatt. It was more of a 100 milliwatt reading. But in this case, it does seem to sit nicely at 200 milliwatt, and if you want to go higher, it seems that it's outputting 800 milliwatts. So that's pretty cool, you know, if you want to do some long range stuff. Of course, for me, I'm not going to be doing that. I'll just be running it at 25 milliwatt, but I like that I've got all of these settings. I can change the channels. All of that worked fine through the on-screen display. So for me, this VTX gets a thumbs up, but you do need to be careful if you're wanting to race with this. And like I say, I'll go and grab that Bluetooth module and see if I can run it through the smartphone app, because that looks pretty cool, actually, you know. So I want to give that a try. But yeah, it's changed this copter completely. I mean, the camera is so much better than the stock one, and so is the VTX as well, and I don't have to worry about it burning up, because this one seems really solid. It seemed to hold a nice temperature and not overheat, despite me not running a fan on it. But you know, these VTXs, they are used to running with cold air around them, so you know, you probably shouldn't leave them switched on too long with them being on the ground. But you know, this one did alright and it held its value, so you know, I like that in a VTX. So yeah, I'm gonna continue to use it, and I'll probably buy some more of them because it seems a suitable VTX for what I like to do. You know, 50 milliwatts, it's nice for me, you know. So yeah, anyways, I'll put a link in the description if you wish to get one, and as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.